There is something weird, despite that, about the transgender question, right? There is something going on that's beyond the sort of liberation of fluidity. Something else seems to have happened.
Breakthrough Media.
Oh, man.
Something else seems to have happened, where many young people in this country now, there's a percentage increase in the number registering for clinical interventions on transgender questions has increased enormously. There's a certain fashion in schools of some sort, and it's a nerve-wracking business. If you're going to get no platformed in this country at university, you know, Germaine Greer, like, regardless of what one thinks of Germaine Greer, the point is you only have to touch on this question. Ian McEwan, who is completely right on liberal, a novelist, dared to say the slightly wrong thing, and suddenly he kind of has to apologise and is kind of ridiculed and shamed. So I don't want to get you to say anything you don't believe, but I'm interested in it because I want to be for liberation. I'm not going to stop anyone dressing how they will. But there's something weird about lots of young women wanting to be young men and lots of young men wanting to be women. I don't feel as though it's a great step forward myself. Thoughts?
Well, I say in the introduction to my new book, my new collection, my particular transgender rebellion came at a time when there wasn't these ideas in the air, that the moment you are dissatisfied with the limitations of your present gender definition, that there is this enormous mechanism waiting to alter your body, to halt puberty, to slow your puberty down. People, all very well-meaning and very sympathetic, are there to provide surgical intervention into and potential, permanent changes in your body with which there's no going back. Okay, for me, a sex change operation opens one door but closes many others. Right? So I personally believe that anyone who collaborates in an intrusion into a developing child's body and mind is guilty of child abuse, a crime against humanity, okay, because that child is not prepared to make such a decision, okay. I think that such decisions about sex reassignment surgery must wait when one attains a majority, which would be, it seems to me, a minimum of age 18. I'm very concerned with this because I think that it's become a fashion, okay, that the transgender definition has become a kind of convenient label for young people who may simply feel alienated, okay, culturally for many other reasons, okay. So that in the 1950s they might have become a beatnik, in the 1960s they might have become a hippie and taken mind-expanding drugs, okay. And so today you're encouraged to think that it's an alienation is because you are not totally defined, identifying with your particular inherited gender definition. So I'm very concerned about this. I think that a lot of it, I think that the collaboration of the bureaucratic machinery with it has to do with the assault on masculinity, okay? Okay, you see, the gender doesn't really exist. It's not really polarity. I mean, everything's all about expanding women's rights, but also terminating men, okay, and defining men out of existence. Masculinity is by definition toxic, okay? Masculinity doesn't exist. And you see, this is the proof of it. But now I began all of my studies, my book Sexual Personae began as a dissertation at Yale graduate school on androgyny. I've always been fascinated, attracted, to the subject of androgyny, and that's what sexual personae is. I explored it in history, but the more I explored it, I realized that that historically the movement toward androgyny occurs in late phases of culture, okay, as a civilization is starting to unravel, okay, and that you can find it again and again and again through history in the Greek art, okay, you can see it happening. All of a sudden, okay, there's a kind of there's the sculptures of handsome nude young men athletes that used to be very robust, okay, in the archaic period suddenly began to seem like wet noodles, okay, toward the end, okay, and that the people who live in such periods, a late phase of culture, whether it's the Hellenistic era, whether it's the Roman Empire, whether it's the Mauve decade of Oscar Wilde in the 1890s, whether it's Weimar Germany, people who live at such times, okay, feel that they're very sophisticated, they're very cosmopolitan, okay, homosexuality, heterosexuality, so what, anything goes, and so on, all right, and so, but from the perspective of historical distance, okay, you can see that it's a culture that no longer believes in itself, okay, and then what you invariably get are people who are convinced of the power of heroic masculinity, okay, on the edges, whether they're the Vandals and the Huns, okay, or whether they're the barbarians of ISIS, okay, you see them, starting to mass on the outsides of the culture, and that's what we have right now. That there is a tremendous and rather terrifying disconnect between the infatuation with the transgender movement in our own culture and what's going on out there. Okay, all right, and so I mean that's why I'm concerned. I feel it's ominous. Okay, I question whether the transgender choice is indeed genuine in every single case. But what concerns me is when well-meaning adults, believe that they're helping people by making it easier some permanent change in the body from which there is no going back. For example, Brown University, one of the elite Ivy League schools in the United States, put sex reassignment surgery on its student insurance program. Okay, so that it becomes they can get a sex change in college. I thought, oh my Lord. Okay, I feel that's evil. Okay, because what it does to young people today facing an uncertain job market. Okay, what it says, people who are questioning their gender while they're at Brown University suddenly feel, well, it's like economically a better judgment for me to move now on this rather than to wait till I don't have a job and living in my parents' basement. Okay. So actually, the adult community trying to be understanding, okay, is, I think, involved in possibly making a permanent change in someone's life that could have tragic consequences.
Drag queens.
Two legends stand before me.
They're strange and they're at the fringes of society, right? Wrong. Drag queens are now everywhere. On TV.
Fasten your seatbelts. It's going to be a bumpy fight for the crown.
In libraries.
We have a very special guest joining us. Welcome, our friend Pickle. Hello.
Hi, everyone.
In schools.
What you are about to see is a full-on erotic drag queen show, complete with gyrations, tongue gymnastics, and a flashed G-string at a kids' public school talent show. Check this out.
In front of young children. Around politicians.
Please give a warm Drag Race welcome, Nancy Pelosi. Oh, welcome back.
My honor to be here.
And even in churches.
The Post Millennial reports this. It says a Lutheran pastor in Chicago offered drag prayer time for children.
RuPaul is a drag queen who is basically now a household name.
'Cause even Grandma likes RuPaul.
He is the producer, host, and judge of the reality competition series RuPaul's Drag Race.
My fellow Americans, the time has come for America's first drag queen president.
RuPaul has won 11 Primetime Emmy Awards, 3 GLAAD Media Awards, a Critics' Choice Television Award, 2 Billboard Music Awards, and a Tony Award. Far from being fringe, drag queens are now incredibly mainstream. Bianca Del Rio, one of the most popular drag queens today, was the winner of the 6th season of RuPaul's Drag Race.
And I've been traveling for the past 3 years all over the world, Australia and the UK and all over America, and it's been quite amazing. You never really know. TV's a pretty powerful thing, and you have no idea who's watching.
Alyssa Edwards, another popular drag queen, was a fan favorite of the 5th season of RuPaul's Drag Race.
And I sent out a tweet that our God is a God of love. And children's very first teacher and role model will be their parents. And it is their parents' decision on what form of entertainment they subject them to. I hate this as my state. I've always been proud to represent Texas. I've always held strong to my roots. I am very proud to say that I'm from Mesquite and that I went to West Mesquite Baptist Church. So I'm taken back at this very moment. And what a sad day for someone like myself who believes in art and entertainment that can inspire, that can enlighten, that can encourage.
Why do drag queens like these matter? Well, as we'll see later, many politicians are bending over backwards to please and cater to them. What comes to mind when you think of libraries?
Wow! Look at all these books!
I've never seen so many books in my entire life.
Me never seen so many books before.
A safe place to bring children to casually browse for books to check out? Not anymore. More and more libraries are now caving to the pressure to put on events such as Drag Queen Story Hour, where drag queens read stories to young children.
Does anyone know what a drag queen is? No? Do you know what a drag queen is? A drag queen is a character you create to express your feminine side or any other side of yourself that you'd like to explore.
I'm totally against it. They come in very exposed. It's provocative for a 6-year-old and an 8-year-old.
Palladino, who represents a conservative Northeast Queens district, says the program doesn't belong in city schools, where she says it's offered without parental knowledge and consent.
I believe there's a time and a place for it. It's adult entertainment.
Everyone is different and everyone is not bad, said Scooter, who is a turtle. Different is special.
Today, readings take place at libraries, museums, and other cultural centers in more than 30 cities across the country.
Libs of TikTok is a Twitter account that reveals much concerning what happens at these drag queen story hours. Take a look at this.
In Weston, Vermont, a public library had a drag queen story hour for all ages with stories focused on gender and activism. They write Drag Queen Story Hour captures the imagination and play of the gender fluidity of childhood. Youth Pride organizations in Ontario organized a Drag Queen Story Hour tour at various public libraries for all ages. It will showcase stories celebrating diversity and inclusion. Bristol Library advertised a Drag Queen Story Hour tour where drag queens will be going around to libraries across the UK to read to children.
Just let that sink in. It's now normal and acceptable for parents to bring their children to watch and listen to drag queens read stories to them in public libraries. If you like this video, subscribe to help spread this message. Speaking of it now being normal and acceptable for drag queens to have an audience of young children, guess where else drag queens are now regularly appearing? You guessed it, schools.
Last week, high schoolers in a Wisconsin town not far from Madison had to endure a song and dance routine by a French teacher from their school who was dressed in drag. It's just a male teacher in drag strutting around in front of his minor students.
Again, Libs of TikTok helps us to see the depths to which many schools have fallen.
According to the Drag Queens TikTok, this occurred at a Catholic high school in NYC. They brought a drag queen to speak to students about drag and LGBTQ.
Her name is Britta Filter, and she is the Queen of New York! Yeah!
I have obtained more footage of the drag show which took place today at Aspire Richmond California College Preparatory Academy, a middle school in Richmond. The drag queen's stage name is Jizz. Were the parents aware of this?
The fact that anyone considers it appropriate for men dressed as women to dance sexually in front of young children should be frightening to us all. We mentioned earlier that many politicians are catering to the drag queen demographic. Here's Nancy Pelosi, the Speaker of the House of Representatives, saying the drag queens are what America is all about.
Please give a warm drag race welcome, Nancy Pelosi. Welcome back.
My honor to be here. Your freedom of expression of yourselves in drag is what America is all about. Can I get an amen?
And here's Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez praising drag queens and calling them patriots.
Okay, I'm a huge Drag Race fan. I think this was the best musical out of it. And the people who change what people think are artists and drag queens. And let's not forget who threw that first brick at Stonewall. Yes. That is what led to us passing the Equality Act in the House in this term. Marriage equality, it starts with you. I mean, you're patriots. You are.
And while we're talking about politicians and the LGBTQ community, here's a photo of two U.S. officials at the French ambassador's Bastille Day celebration. On the left is Rachel Levine, a 4-star admiral in the United States Public Health Service Commission Corps, and on the right is Sam Britton, a Department of Energy employee who is a non-binary drag queen with they-them pronouns.
Admiral Rachel Levine. Rachel is a father and was still biologically a man for the majority of Rachel's life. He, she, her, his life, and just recently transitioned and rose to prominence when they were appointed to this position. And I think Rachel is the first transgender person in the federal government, I believe. We can't look at this and think that our society and our country is mentally well. These are the two people representing us on the world stage at the French Embassy.
These are our government officials. Surely drag queens are just out there, right? Surely drag queens don't have anything to do with Christians and churches, right? Wrong. Here is a drag queen church pastor.
Loving Creator, Holy One, and Diva of the world, may your word shine upon us like glitter under the stage lights. May it pop like a death drop in a crowded, dingy basement. As we are gathered here for Coming Out Sunday, may the words of my mouth and the meditations of all of our hearts be acceptable to you, O God, our rock, our strength, and our Redeemer. Amen.
And here's a Methodist drag queen teaching about the mystery of queer holiness.
I am really uncomfortable with the story of the crucifixion. The commentary of the queer Bible commentary transposes the story of Christ. This really every story in the Bible, but specifically this one was about the crucifixion, and it transposes that onto the story of the queer experience.
And here's a pastor hosting drag prayer time for children.
Aaron Musser, who was ordained this summer, donned a blonde wig, white dress, and makeup to share in worship with the children in his parish. This is St. Luke's Lutheran Church of Logan Square, and they publicized the event on Facebook. They're very proud of it. Let's take a look at some of this.
With many other exhortations, John proclaimed the good news to the people. The gospel of the Lord.
Praise to you, O Christ.
You may be seated, and I'd like to invite any children or people who would like to see a picture book that I will be showing on the iPad here.
And the list goes on and on.
Pride isn't a place, it's a feeling of being proud. The pride flag represents being proud of who you are.
And on. Of course, the Bible is perfectly clear that men are men and women are women, and that God will judge those who reject the way God created them to live and act.
And all of that goes to the heart of a simple, singular question. Hath God said? But if God hath said, then we're in trouble. And I believe we are.
Yes, they knew God, but they wouldn't worship him as God or even give him thanks. And they began to think up foolish ideas of what God was like. As a result, their minds became dark and confused. Claiming to be wise, they instead became utter fools. And instead of worshiping the glorious, ever-living God, they worshiped idols made to look like mere people and birds and animals and reptiles. So God abandoned them to do whatever shameful things their hearts desired. As a result, they did vile and degrading things with each other's bodies. They traded the truth about God for a lie. So they worshipped and served the things God created instead of the Creator himself, who is worthy of eternal praise. Amen.
Have you ever felt? Oh my God, this just keeps getting worse.
Don't look past this.
I look at freedom and I appreciate that.
Breakthrough Media.